On opening the eyes. Sick headache coming on in the early morning. Intolerable by noon. Deathly nausea. Violent vomiting. By noise and light. Periodical. Tabacum. Tobacco. Solanatio diseases originating in cerebral irritation followed by marked irritation of functions of vagi. Emaciation of cheeks and back. Complete prostration of entire muscular system. Sensation of excessive wretchedness. Icy coldness of surface. Covered with cold, wet. Symptoms occur in paroxysms asthma. Sick headache. Vertigo. Sneezing. Great despondency with indigestion. Palpitation. Intermittent pulse. Vertigo. Death-like pallor. Increases to loss of consciousness. Relieved in open air and by vomiting. On rising or looking upward. On opening the eyes. Sick headache coming on in the early morning. Intolerable by noon. Deathly nausea. Violent vomiting. By noise and light. Periodical. Lasting 1 or 2 days. Sudden pain on right side. Of head as if struck by a hammer or a club. Dim-sighted. See as though a veil. Strabismus. Depending upon brain troubles. Amaurosis. From atrophy of retina or optic nerve. Face pale. Blue. Pinched. Sunken. Collapsed. Covered with cold sweat on forehead. The. Nausea. Incessant. As if seasick. Vomiting. On least motion. With faintness. In open air. Vomiting. Violent. With cold sweat. Soon as he begins to move. During pregnancy. When lactic acid fails, sir. Seasickness. Deathly nausea. Pallor. Coldness. By least motion and on deck in fresh. Cold air. Terrible. Faint. Sinking feeling at pit of stomach. Sense of relaxation of stomach with nausea IPEC. Staph. Children's abdomen uncovered. Relieves nausea and vomiting. Coldness in abdomen colch. Elapse. Lack. Constipation. Inactive bowel or paralysis of rectum. Spasms of sphincter. Prolapsus ana. Of years standing. Herpes of anus. Diarrhea. Sudden. Yellowish. Greenish. Slimy. Urgent. Watery. With nausea. Vomiting. Prostration and cold. Wet fur. With extreme faintness. From excessive smoking. Anal-colic. Violent spasmodic pains along ureter left side bulb. Deathly nausea and cold perspiration. Palpitation. Violent when lying on left side. Goes off when turning to the right. Pulse. Quick. Full. Large. Small intermittent. Exceedingly slow. Feeble. Irregular. Almost imperceptible. Hands icy cold. Body warm. Legs icy cold. From knees down. Trembling of limbs. Relations. Antidotes. For abuse of tobacco. R. IPEC. For excessive nausea and vomiting. Rs. For bad effects of tobacco chewing. Nux. For the gastric symptoms next morning after smoking. Fos. Palpitation. Tobacco heart. Sexual weakness. Eden. For annoying hiccup from tobacco chewing. Clem. Or plant. For tobacco toothache. Sep. Neuralgic affections of right side of face. Dyspepsia. Chronic nervousness. Especially in sedentary occupations. Like. For impotence. spasms, cold sweat from excessive smoking, gels, occipital headache and vertigo from excessive use, especially smoking, tabacum, potentize 200 or 1000, to relieve terrible craving when discontinuing use. Amelioration, open, fresh, cold air, uncovering, keynotes by H. C. Allantoropsychum, dandelion, capacite, for gastric and bilious attacks, especially gastric headaches, mapped tongue lack, myrrh, nat, m, covered with a white film with sensation of rawness. This film comes off in patches, leaving dick red, tender, very sensitive spots ran. S. Jaundice with enlargement and induration of liver mapped tongue, debility, loss of appetite, profuse night sweats, especially when convalescing from bilious or typhoid fever, restlessness of limbs in typhoid rus, sink, relations, compare, brie, hider, nux, in gastric and bilious affections, aggravation, almost all symptoms appear when sitting, lying down, resting, keynotes by H. C. Allen, tarantula, Cuban and Spanish, Arenadia adapted to highly nervous organisms, especially choleric affections where whole body, or right arm and left leg are affected, left arm and right leg. Agar, constant movement of the legs, arms, trunk, with inability to do anything, twitching and jerking off muscles, restlessness, could not keep quiet in any position, must keep in motion, though walking all symptoms rev, of rus, ruta, hyperesthesia, least excitement irritates, followed by languid sadness, extreme of tips of fingers, slight touch along the spine provokes spasmodic pain in chest and cardiac region, headache, intense, as if thousands of needles were pricking their brain, abscess, boils, felons, affected parts of a bluish color lack, and atrocious burning pain Ars, the agony of a felon, compelling patient to walk the floor for nights, malignant ulcers, carbuncle, anthrax, gangrene, symptoms appear periodically, headache, neuralgic by noise, touch, strong light, by rubbing head against pillow, at every menstrual nisus, throat, mouth and tongue intolerably dry, especially when sleeping nuxem, sexual excitement extreme even to mania, spasms of uterus pruritus vulva becomes intolerable, relations, similar, to, APIs, crot, lack, plat, mygale, nausea, aggravation, motion, contact, touch of affected parts, noise, change of weather, amelioration, in open air, music, rubbing affected parts, termini of nerves become so irritated and sensitive that some kind of friction was necessary to obtain refife. Keynotes by H. C. Lenterebinth. Oil of turpentine, a volatile oil. The urine has the odor or violets. Tongue, smooth, glossy, red, as if deprived of papillae, or as if glazed pie. Elevated papillae. Coating peels off in patches leaving bright red spots, or entire coating cleans off suddenly in exanthemata. Dry and red. Burning. In tip compare. Myrrh. AC. Abdomen. extremely sensitive to touch, distension, flatulence, excessive tympanitis, meteorism colch, diarrhea, stool, watery, greenish, mucus, frequent, profuse, fetid, bloody, burning in anus and rectum, fainting and exhaustion, after hours, worms, with foul breath, choking sinus, spig, dry, hacking cough, tickling at anus, ascarides, lumbricy, tapeworm segments past, hematuria, blood thoroughly mixed with brine, sediment, like coffee grounds, cloudy, smoky, albuminous, profuse, dark or black, painless, congestion and inflammation of viscera, kidneys, bladder, lungs, intestines, uterus, with hemorrhage, and malignant tendency, purpurea hemorrhagica, fresh ecchymosis in great numbers from day-to-day sulf, AC, ascites with anassica, inorganic lesions of kidneys, dropsy after scarlatina APIs, hell, lack, hemorrhages, from bowels, with ulceration, passive, dark, with ulceration or epithelial degeneration, violent burning and drawing pains in kidney, bladder and urethra bulb, canth, violent burning and cutting in bladder, tenesmus, sensitive hypergastrium, cystitis and retention from materia fundus, albuminuria, acute, in early stages, when blood and albumin abound more than casts and epithelium, after diphtheria, scarlatina, typhoid, urine rich in albumin and blood, but few if any casts, from living in damp dwellings, strangury, spasmodic retention of urine, relations, compare, alumen, on, as, canth, lack, NIT, AC, is recommended as a prophylactic in malarial and African fevers. Keynotes by H. C. Alentheridion curasavicum. Orange spider arenadia. Time passes too quickly, too slowly. Arg. N. Can. Nux M. Vertigo. On closing the eyes. Lack. Future on opening them. Tab. On looking upward. Pulse. Sill. From any. Even the least noise. Oral or labyrinthine Meniere's disease. Nausea. From least motion. And especially on closing the eyes. From fast riding in a carriage. Headache. When beginning to move. As of a dull heavy pressure begin the eyes. Violent. Deep. In the brain. Lying down. Lack. Very much from others walking on the floor. Or from least motion of head. Every sound seems to penetrate through whole body, causing nausea and vertigo. Chronic nasal catarrh. Discharge thick, yellow, greenish. Offensive pulse. Future. Toothache. Every shrill sound penetrates the teeth. Seasickness of nervous women. They close their eyes to get rid of the motion of vessel and grown deathly sick. Violent stitches in upper left chest. Below the scapula. Extending to neck. Unis. Myrrh. Picks. Sulf. Pains in the bones all over. As if broken. Great sensitiveness between vertebrae. Sit sideways in the chair to avoid pressure against spine. Chin. S. By least nose and jar of foot on floor. For extreme nervous sensitiveness. of puberty, during pregnancy and climacteric years, in rachtes, caries, necrosis. It apparently goes to the root of the evil and destroys the cause. Drive. Barak. Physis, Florida. Often affects a cure if given in the early stages of disease. In scrofulosis, where the best chosen remedies fail to relieve. Relations. Follows well after. Cal. And like. Keynotes by H. C. Alanthuspi bursa pastoris. Shepherd's purse. Cruciferi profuse passive hemorrhage from every outlet of the body. Bloodic and clotted. Metrorrhagia. With violent cramps and uterinicolic. Inchlorosis. After abortion. Labor. Miscarriage. At climacteric. With cancer uteri fos. Used. Menses. Too early. Too profuse. Protracted 8. 10. Even 15 days. Tardy in starting. First day Morelia show. Second day colic. Vomiting. A hemorrhage with large clots. Each alternate period more profuse. Hemorrhage or delaying menses from uterine inertia. Exhausting. Scarcely recovers from one period before another begins. Leukorrhea. Bloody. Dark. Offensive. Some days before and after menses. Relations. Comar. Synapsis. Tilium. Viburnum. Eustalago. Keynotes by H. C. Alenfuga occidentalis. Tree of life. White cedar. Conifery. Adapted to hydrogenoid constitution of Granvogel, which is related to psychosis, as effect is to cause. Thuja bears the same relation to thesicosis of Hahnemann and thick warts. Condylomata and wart-like excrescences upon mucous and cutaneous surfaces, that sulfur does to psoro or mercury to syphilis. Acts well in lymphatic temperament. In very fleshy persons. Dark complexion. Black hair. Unhealthy skin. Ailments from bad effects of vaccination and T. Sil. From suppressed or maltreated gonorrhea med. Fixed at ease. As if a strange person were at his side. As if soul and body were separated. As if a living animal were in abdomen. Of being under the influence of a superior power. Insane women will not be touched or approached. Vertigo. When closing the eyes lack. Headache. As if a nail had been driven into parietal bone cough. Eggen. Or as if a convex button were pressed on the part. From sexual excesses. Overheating from T-cell. Chronic. Or psychotic or syphilitic origin. White scaly dandruff. Hair dry and falling out. Eyes. Ophthalmia neonatorum. Psychotic or syphilitic. Large granulations. Like warts or blisters. By warmth and covering. In uncovered. Feels as if a cold stream of air were blowing out through them. Eyelids. Agglutinated at night. Dry. Scaly on edges. Styes and tarsal tumors. Chalice. Thick. Hard knots. Like small condylomata. After staphysigria partially, but does not cure. Is. Chronic otitis. Discharge pululent. Like putrid meat. Granulations. Condylomata. Polypy. Pale red. Cellular. Bleed in gicilli. Chronic catarrh. After exanthemata. Thick. Green mucus. Blood and pus pulse. Teeth decay at the roots. Crowns remain soundums. On edges. Staph. Crumble. Turn yellow scythe. Ranula. Bluish. or varicose veins on tongue or in mouth. Toothache from tea drinking. On blowing the nose, or pressing pain in the hollow tooth or at the side of it. Culex. Orlinghausen. Abdomen. As if an animal were crying. Motion as if something to live protrudes here and there, like the arm of a fetus croc. Nuxem. Sulf. Distressing. Burning pain in left ovarian region when walking or riding. Must sit or lie down croc. Used. Worse at each menstrual nissus. Constipation. Violent pains in rectum compel cessation of effort. Stool recedes. After being partly expelled. Sanic. Sill. Piles swollen. Pain most severe when sitting. Diarrhea. Early morning. Expelled forcibly with much flatus aloe. Gurgling. As water from a bunghole. After breakfast. Coffee. Fat food. Vaccinations. Anus fissured. Painful to touch, surrounded with flat warts. Or moist mucus. Condylomata. Coition prevented by extreme sensitiveness of the vagina plat. Bidrinus. Like. Lies. Natter. Skin. Looks dirty. Brown or brownish white spots here and there. Warts. Large. Seedy. Pedunculated staph. Eruptions only on covered parts. Burn after scratching. Flesh feels as if beaten. From the bones fit. As if scraped. Rus. Sensation after urinating. As of urine trickling in urethra. Severe cutting at close of urination. SARS. Chill. Beginning in the thighs. Sweat. Only on uncovered parts. Or all over except the head. Rev. Sill. When he sleeps. Stops when he wakes. Rev. Samb. Profuse. Sour smelling. Fetid at night. Perspiration. Smelling like honey. On the genitals. When walking, the limbs feel as if made of wood. Sensation as if body, especially the limbs, were made of glass and would break easily. Suppressed gonorrhea. Causing articular rheumatism. Prostatitis. Psychosis. Impotence. Condylomata and many constitutional troubles. Nails. Deformed. Brittle ant. C. Relations. Complementary. Med. Sab. Sill. Compare. Can. S. Canth. Cop. Staff. Synab. Is preferable for warts on the prepuce. Follows well. After. Med. Mer. NIT. AC. Aggravation. At night. From heat of bed. At 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. From cold damp air. Narcotics. Keynotes by H. C. Allantrilium pendulum. Wake Robin Smilacy hemorrhage. Copious. Both active and passive. Usually bright red. From nose. Lungs. Kidneys and uterus. IPEC. Mill. Tendency to putrescence of fluids. Epistaxis. Profuse. Passive. Bright red. Bleeding from cavity after extraction of a tooth. Ham. Priose. Menses. Profuse. Every 2 weeks. Lasting a week or longer. Calc. P. After overexertion or too long a ride. Flooding. With fainting. Menorrhagia. Flow. Profuse. Gushing. Bright red. At least movement. Sab. From displaced uterus. At the climacteric. Every 2 weeks. Dark. Clotted telas. Used. Hemoptysis. Incipient phthisis. With bloody sputa. In advanced stages with copious. Pululent expectoration and troublesome cough. Sensation as if hips and small of back were falling to pieces. As if sacroiliac synrondroses were falling apart. Wants to be bound tightly. As if bones of pelvis were broken east. With hemorrhage. Profuse uterine hemorrhage T climacteric. Flow every 2 weeks. Pale. Faint. Dim sight. Palpitation. Obstruction and noises in ears fur. Painful sinking at pit of stomach. Relations. Complementary. To cal. P. In menstrual and hemorrhagic affections. Compare. Cinch. Bell. Calice. Mill. Lack. Sep. Sulf. T-Laz. Used. Keynotes by H. C. Allen tuberculinum bacillinum. Pus with bacilli, from tubercular abscessa nosode. Note. Asterisk the potencies of Fink and Swan were prepared from a drip of pus obtained from a pulmonary tubercular abscess or sputa. Those of Heath from a tuberculous lung in which the bacillus tuberculosis had been found microscopically. Hence the former was called tuberculinum, and the latter bacillinum. Both preparation are reliable and effective. Adapted to persons of light complexion. Blue eyes. Blonde in preference to brunette. Tall slim. Flat. Narrow chest. Active and precocious mentally. Weak physically. The tubercular diathesis. When the family history of tubercular affections the best selected remedy fails to relieve or permanently improve. Without reference to name of disease. Symptoms ever changing. Ailments affecting on organ. Then another the lungs. Brain. Kidneys. Liver. Stomach. Nervous system beginning suddenly. Ceasing suddenly. Takes cold easily without knowing how or where. Seems to take cold every time he takes a breath of fresh air. Hep. Emaciation rapid and pronounced. Losing flesh while eating well abroad. Calc. Con. Iod. Nat. Melancholy. Despondent. Morose. Irritable. Fretful. Peevish. Taciturn. Sulky. Naturally of a sweet disposition. Now on the borderland of insanity. Everything in the room seemed strange. As though in a strange place. Headache. Chronic. Tubercular. Pain intense. Sharp. Cutting. From above right eye tuxapat. As of an iron hoop round the head anarch. Sulf. Whence best selected remedy only palliates. Schoolgirl-s headache. By study or even slight mental exertion. When using eyes in cloth work and glasses fail to. With a tubercular history. Acute cerebral or bacillar meningitis. With threatened effusion. Nocturnal hallucinations. Wakes from sleep frightened. Screaming. Winapis. Hell. Or sulf. Though well selected. Fail to improve. Crops off small boils. Intensely painful. Successively appear in the nose. Green. Fetid pus sec. Plica polonica. Several bad cases permanently cured after bore. And psa. Failed. Diarrhea. Early morning. Sudden. Imperative sulf. Emaciating though eating. Well iod. Nat. Stool dark. Brown. Watery. Offensive. Discharged with great force. Great weakness and profuse night sweats. Menses. Too early. Too profuse. Too long lasting. Tardy in starting. with frightful dysmenorrhea. In patients with a tubercular history, tubercular deposit begins in apex of lungs, usually the left fos. Sulf. Eczema. Tubercular over entire body. Itching intense. At night when undressing. From bathing. Immense quantities of white-brown-like scales. Oozing behind the ears. In the air. In folds of skin with rawness and soreness. Fiery red skin. Ringworm. Relations. Complementary. Sir. Sulf. When Sir. Sulf. Or best selected remedy fails to relieve or permanently improve. Follows Sir. As a constitutional remedy in hay fever. Asthma. Belladonna. For acute attacks. Congestive or inflammatory. Occurring in tubercular diseases. Hydrostes to fatten patients cured with tuber. Keynotes by H. C. Alan Valeriana. Valerian. Valerianaso. Excessive nervous excitability. Hysterical nervous temperament. Pulse.